ASUS ROG Ally X plus handles. That's what this is. This is an ROG Ally X box here. First of all, it's not an Xbox, okay? It's not an Xbox at all. It's just a Windows handheld, which is fine. I like Windows handhelds. I have many of them. So it's not an Xbox. It's just a Windows handheld. Now, this here is ASUS's brand new handheld. This is their Halo handheld with the Z2 Extreme. It is an absurd ripoff, and you shouldn't buy it. Now, if you're an ASUS fan, feel free to go down below and unsubscribe from my channel, because you're like, I must be on ASUS's side. That's fine. You can do that if you want. If you are a new person and you're an ASUS fanboy, you can also downvote my video, and you can put hateful comments down below, how I'm a moron. It's fine. I don't care. This handheld is absurd. On paper, if we live in a void and there's nothing else out there, the ASUS ROG Ally X is okay, I guess. But what ASUS is trying to do here is take the ROG Ally X, not the original Ally, but the Ally X, which is a refresh, 24 gigabytes of RAM, 24 gigabytes of RAM. They're basically overclocking the chip. The 890M here is like a minor improvement over the 780M, so like 10%, maybe 15% at most. And they added little handles. And they want you to pay 1,000 American dollars. 1,000 American dollars. So that's what this is here. This is an ROG Ally X with handles on it, and they want you to pay $1,000 for it. And they branded it as an Xbox because that'll help sell it. So we're going to start this review by telling you, do not buy this handheld. However, in this review, I'm going to compare it to almost exactly the same price handheld. This is the new MSI Claw. This is the 8AI. I bought this to do this review. I bought this too. Bought this specifically to do this review. These guys, this is an Intel model, the Intel Lunar Lake, but you can also get these in AMD as well. I have a ton of experience with handhelds and these chips here. Let's jump into this review. I'm going to break this down as my standard review. I will not be, I'm not going into this negative. I've already done the whole test. This is filmed afterwards, like way later. So the review as I'm going through is just going to be my opinions and also objective fact as well. For the cooling, they're actually somewhat similar. Here we have a dual fan setup, fairly large dual fan. We do have a dual heat pipe setup here on the MSI Claw. Love to see that. On the ROG Ally, interestingly, we actually have a single heat pipe setup. We do have two fans as well. They're actually a little bit smaller, but the fins are denser. We'll see. MSI typically uses these less dense fins in general. But overall, we do have a single heat pipe here, and it's actually a smaller, thinner heat pipe than these here. So these have two heat pipes on the MSI Claw, and each of them are larger than the single heat pipe here. So that's a little disappointing there, that the fact that the Lunar Lake based handheld, which actually runs at lower watts, doesn't need as much power. Generally speaking, it's more efficient, has what I can see better cooling than the ROG Ally. That's unfortunate. They could have easily put in a dual heat pipe setup here and potentially made this heat pipe a little bit thicker. Then it would just run even quieter. You get an 80 watt hour here on the ROG Ally, 76.1 watt hour on the Lunar Lake equipped MSI Claw. So technically a bigger battery. This will have better battery life regardless, because it's Lunar Lake, it's just more efficient, but regardless, they both have big batteries. Otherwise, they look quite similar inside. The one negative of the Claw over here, though, is 2230 NVMe. That's unfortunate. There's a ton of room in here. They could have figured something out to get a 2280. They could have moved. I mean, they did put on significantly more cooling over here, whereas the ROG Ally has significantly less cooling, probably to facilitate that 2280. So that's the trade-off. Okay, we're actually going to take off the cooling here. So we have some fan. So you do have to do a lot of disassembly here to get to the heat sink. I mean, you don't, this is not something that you have to do, but you actually do need to take out these two screws here, just so you can squeeze that under. Like that, see how that's stuck there? So that has to come out. I'm going to have to do the same over here. You don't have to remove the shoulder, but you do have to at least loosen it a little bit. Maybe even just go like that. That should be enough. And then I can squeeze that under. See that? That has to go under. Now we can take this off. Tiny little Peasley. Look at that tiny little thing. Jeez. I mean, it's not the highest watts, but it's still, I mean, it gets 35 watts. That's kind of a sad state of affairs there, unfortunately. You'd want to see a lot better cooling. You know, thicker heat pipe for sure. Definitely would want to see a thicker heat pipe. It does have PTM. That's good to see. PTM is important. Rather than thermal paste, it's going to last a lot longer. So you're not going to have to service this thing probably really forever. Unless you have really bad temperatures, you can be like, all right, maybe they did a bad application. But generally speaking, it's not hard for them to apply PTM. So you're going to be fine with this probably for a couple of years before you'd even want to consider redoing this, because paste comes off. Paste will dry out and lose its efficiency, whereas PTM, it actually melts into a liquid type material, and then it dries after that into this kind of semi-hard. As you can see there, it comes off almost like a pad. It's dried. That's not paste. It's supposed to be dried, so don't open this up and be like, oh my god, they applied dry paste. That's not true. They applied PTM, which does dry out. The advantages of PTM is that it lasts much longer than paste before it gets bad. And the other thing is that it also just performs better. So that's good to see. The other thing is here, this is the original NVMe here. This is my NVMe. It's a dual-sided, and this thing has tons of room. There's nothing under there to contact, and there's tons of room in here for a dual-sided NVMe. So this is an 8 terabyte, which fits no problem. You could also get yourself a 4 terabyte, for example, and there's lots of dual-sided 4 terabytes, so you're gonna have lots of options for upgrading. Dual-sided NVMe, good, and the PTM there is good. It means you're not going to have to service the paste here for years and years. Okay, so let's have a look at the ROG Ally and the MSI Claw. I'm actually going to be doing a review of both of them. So review of this, so I'll probably just piggyback, honestly, maybe even the same footage into both videos. Why not? So here's the MSI, here's the ROG Ally X box. This is the one with the Z2 Extreme. I've had it for a few days now. Came out 2 days ago, I think it would be. Maybe 3, and I've just been messing around with it. Pretty basic. Yeah, so it's basically very similar to the other Xbox Eye. What you have here that's different is the old one would come out here. So rather than getting that little grip down there, on the old one, you basically just had it curved out. Otherwise, it's essentially the same handheld. It's very, very, very similar. There's a couple of buttons here and there. Same screen, unfortunately, same screen size and everything. The original Ally, I did not like the ergonomics of it. It was too flat. In the back of it was kind of like, I don't know how to describe it. It was almost like, yeah, it's kind of like a Switch, I guess. Not quite that bad. I mean, Switch has nothing. But it was like your hand was abandoned back there. So this is a huge ergo improvement over the original Ally. Like very considerable over the original Ally, because you have something nice to grip onto. So obviously that feels quite nice. The in-hand feel, obviously is going to be pretty good. You also have very similar layouts here. These are kind of changed up a little bit, but otherwise it's a pretty standard layout, right? A couple buttons on the back there. Same as before. Right, very similar to what it was. They just basically tweaked these little hand grips there. Tiny 7-inch screen on this one here, despite the overall bulk. So that was a weird choice by ASUS. Here's the MSI Claw. Again, fairly standard layout. Speakers down here as well. D-pad in a very similar spot. You get the same kind of inversed joystick positions, similar to an Xbox as well. Sony have them kind of mirrored. You don't have that here. And this is all standard. You get your buttons up there, all kind of standard. Similar, a little bit thinner, obviously, on the MSI Claw. It's actually a thinner, physically thinner handheld. See that there? It's actually like a thinner handheld that way, wider this way and taller. Right? Bigger screen, so it's got a little bit more to it. The in-hand feel overall, I mean, they feel basically the same, right? Yeah, they feel about the same. That's not too bad. I will bring in another size comparison. I'll bring in a couple Switch 1. This is the OLED version, so obviously a lot smaller. Screen size is interestingly the same size, which is wild. The OLED Switch here, having the same screen size as a brand new 2025 ROG Ally with so much more bulk is wild to me. Look at the size of the handheld difference. And they have the same screen size. That's crazy. ASUS is drunk with that decision. The new Switch 2, 8-inch screen. So this screen here dwarfs the ROG Ally. It's the same as this here. Same size as this here. See that? You can see me even in that reflection. Right, very nice. Obviously, these switches are much thinner like that, so quite a bit different. Now, the ASUS did upgrade the ROG Ally. We do have here a USB 4 port, so there is one USB 4 port. The original Ally did not have that, unfortunately, so wasn't, I mean, it was still a reasonable quick, like you could run a SATA drive, but it wasn't good for like docks and that kind of stuff. Like I've been using it. Where is it? Here it is over here. Thunderbolt 4, USB 4 dock that I use when I'm doing my testing, and I will be using it in this video. Just a little thin little thing like that, and you get multiple ports on it. It's a USB 4, so it's nice and fast. So you get one of those. I don't know what the hell they're thinking. They put one USB 4 and the other one's not. Like, come on, ASUS. Like, you're just trying to cut corners in every tiny little spot that you can and keep your costs down. I get it, you're a business, but like, just stop, honestly. So you get two USB-Cs, one's USB 4, one's the standard. SD card there, headphone, nothing on the bottom. Now I'm angry. Here we get dual USB 4. Thunderbolt, technically, Thunderbolt 4. SD card there, the headphone, microphone combo jack. And then the Legion Go 2 also has dual USB 4. So the MSI Claw and the Legion Go both have dual USB 4. So you can use one for power, or you can run a full dock, like something like this. You can turn them into a full-fledged PC much easier than you can here. It's just a cheap out. They're just cheaping out. They're just like, you know what? Let's just give them one. And because they can save 50 cents a unit or 75 cents a unit. And they hope that if they sell enough of them, that'll add up. And it will. But I mean, that's what they're doing there. So that's kind of a dick move from ASUS. These guys, you know, the Switch, not really the same idea, but you do get actually a dual USB in there as well. These aren't USB 4. They're not computers. They're consoles, not the same thing. So the hand feel on the Xbox is definitely quite nice. They upgraded it massively. Last year it had these shallow, kind of almost like a shallow bum on it. It was really, really shallow last year. Not quite this bad, but you know, the last model, the original Ally, it had actually a bad hand feel, to be honest. It wasn't bad is the right term. It was shallow. It had a shallow hand feel. For me, I didn't like it that much. This one has a fantastic hand feel, kind of just like a controller, like a joystick. So that's going to be obviously very nice. It feels like you're really locked in. So it feels great. Honestly, it feels great. You know, it is weird that they have such a large chassis for such a small screen, but we'll get into the screen later. Yeah, the Claw here feels just fine. It has less on the back there, but still enough bump to grab onto. And like this one here, rather than holding it up here, because I would not be able to hit these buttons, I just bring my hands down and I'm up here. I don't think the Claw feels as nice as this, obviously. Like, this feels like a straight up joystick. It feels fantastic in the hand, like 10 out of 10 hand feel. The Legion Go 2 has also a really good hand feel. This one will be a little bit below that. It's not bad by any means. Don't take this the wrong way and think this is a bad hand feel. It does not feel bad in the hand, but it doesn't feel as nice as the other two, just because probably it's not quite as much of a like a bump back here, and yeah, it just feels a little bit different. The placement feels a little bit different, and I just don't feel quite as like dialed in. Whereas this is, you know, you're really dialed in here. Like, see the hand angles here. Like, this actually curves my hand, and I'm really dialed in on the controller here. Here, no, there's a little bit of a void in there, I would say. So, hand feel here is like a 10 out of 10. This would be like a 9 out of 10, 8.5, something like that. You know, the Switch I have terrible hand feel. Like, this is the original one. You're completely abandoned back here. You're just holding like a little notebook type thing. Switch 2, same idea. You know, that's why you get, like, I have a shell. It's just not on camera, but I have a shell that I put on, and it just improves the hand grip. It does allow them to keep it very thin, I guess. That's kind of cool. Yeah, the analog sticks here, they're unfortunately not Hall effect. That's a wild take. I guess it's not technically. I mean, they're skimping out on the USB 4 there, skimping on some other stuff too. You have just standard joysticks. You're not Hall effect, so there is the risk of drift. These are here Hall effect. So Hall effect here, it doesn't necessarily change the feel too much, but Hall effect, it's a magnetic type technology, and you're not going to risk drift, or it's going to be massively lower. So over time, you know, eventually you could run into drift. I guess every controller will eventually drift theoretically, or just break before that. So you will risk eventual drift here. You don't really have nearly as much risk on the MSI Claw because of that drift, because of that Hall effect joysticks. So MSI, you'll see as we're going on here, they're not cheapening out as much as ASUS there, but they both feel fine. The joysticks feel just fine. Good click. They sound different, feel slightly different, but they're good. They're firm too. I don't like weak joysticks. This is actually a little bit weak. It still feels fine, but it's a little like Ryu, like it doesn't take much to actuate it. These have more resistance, and I like that. So they both feel nice. That's good. The D-pad here, it's fine. It's literally just taken from the previous Ally, a little floating D-pad. I never had a problem with it. It's fine. Does the trick. This feels better, for sure. It's like sunken down more, and it just feels like you're really getting into it more. I don't know, it feels more like a traditional D-pad on like an older controller. better. It's just better. This is, this style here, like where you have, you can take it off from an Xbox, a little floaty thing. Your choice. Probably, weirdly, I actually probably like Claw. Didn't expect that. Feels really nice. Yeah, that's the best there. Other buttons here, obviously, joystick, or shoulder buttons. And you have a nice shoulder button. Feels nice and resistive. Feels good. Nice curve to it. All right, that feels good. Do I have a preference here? I don't think I care. I mean, this is bigger. And for my hand size, that's probably better. A little bit bigger. Real fine. I mean, if I pick one, it'll be the Ally, I guess. But they both feel fine. Whatever. Doesn't really matter. Let's feel these. That's fine. The Ally's better. Yep, the Ally's better. Back buttons. These are tiny. That's weird. Okay, let's go like this. Let's just hold it naturally in my hand. This is hard to hit, actually. I think it's because it's curved. I have to actually have a hard time hitting that. The placement of my hand, yeah, it's kind of hard. Like when I put my thumbs over here, I guess I can put my middle finger on there. It's actually a little bit hard to hit. This one is, I don't know if it's the placement. This is way easier to hit here. Yeah, my fingers are just resting on that. So these back buttons are way better on the MSI Claw. The shoulder buttons are better here. The D-pad's better here, so it's just, we're just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Here we do have, start and select. I don't care what they're called in Windows. To me, they're called start and select. Start and select. Pop out, bring out your menus. Pop out, bring out your menus. The full thing. Armory Crate, Claw software, whatever the hell it's called. It's fine. And then here you have an Xbox button that just brings you into Game Pass. It's so stupid. It's not an Xbox. Very good. Yeah, I mean, they're good. I like both of them. Hand feel, I'm going to give it to the Ally for sure. It just feels better in the hand. That's just a really, really nice feeling hand feel. I give it a 10 out of 10 hand feel. MSI Claw, probably 9. So the ROG Ally, ASUS is just doing whatever the F they can to keep this thing cheap. Like they're cheapening out on the USB port, right? They're cheapening out on this and that. Look at this fucking screen. This handheld is not much smaller than this. They're very similar in size, right? There's a little bit here. This thing's actually thicker than this. This is thinner. A little bit, tiny little bit less wide, and a tiny little bit less tall. But it has a 7-inch screen. 8-inch screen. 7-inch screen. 8-inch screen. Even Nintendo, the demon of the gaming world, who will never change, went with 8 inches. Even the Steam Deck, the original Steam Deck, they had the Steam Deck 7 inches, then they made the Steam Deck OLED, and they made it bigger. ASUS, in their infinite wisdom, decided that they would be cheap bastards and use the same goddamn 7-inch screen that they had on the other things, same size, and say, well, we'll just pop it in here, and not think they're going to piss people off. And there are people, the ASUS fans, you can be an ASUS fan, that's fine, I don't care. Like, ASUS makes some good stuff too, but there's people who are like zealots who will follow and will fight with you. This is a bad look, and the vast majority of people online agree. This is a bad look, having a 7-inch screen on a handheld of this size when everybody else is going to 8 inches with a form factor of this. This is not an X1 Fly from 1X Player, where the physical handheld is like tiny, like the whole handheld is this big, and that has a 7-inch screen. Sure, that's fine. I'm fine with that, because the whole handheld is tiny, right? This is a large handheld. This is a physically large handheld, and it has a 7-inch screen. It's asinine. People will say, well, the original Steam Deck, it's amazing in 7 inches. Kind of. I mean, the original Steam Deck has a shit screen. I don't care what anybody says. It has a shit screen, bad colors, whatever. It works because it's cheap and because it's the first. And also, Steam OS is not this. This is a hard to navigate interface. Everything is so damn tiny on this ROG Ally. Everything is so damn tiny. These little tiny micro fonts here versus these much larger things. I even like larger than this, like larger than the MSI Claw. I like the Legion Go size, 8.8 inches, or even bigger, to be honest. But I'm not going to crap on anybody for 8 inches. 8 inches is like a reasonable middle ground, and I think the average person would settle on 8. 10.95 inches is not for the average. That's for people like me who are like want that like extra screen, want to use it as a hybrid device. That's for me. The Legion Go is kind of like the Cadillac, 8.8 inches. It's more expensive, right? It's more expensive than both of these, yada, yada, yada. But these are the same, these handhelds cost the same price. These handhelds cost the same price. Yeah, I don't want to harp too much on it because I think it is an absolutely pathetic decision that ASUS decided to put another goddamn 7-inch screen on these handhelds. And I'm going to be frank, I'm not keeping both of these handhelds. And it doesn't matter how well they perform, it doesn't matter how good they feel in the hand. I can't deal with the ASUS 7-inch screen. In Windows games, modern PC games, it is unenjoyable. Now, do not think that because these do not have OLED screens that they are bad screens. That is not true. OLED will enhance blacks. It will give you an absolute black. If you get an IPS screen, you will not get absolute blacks. What does that mean? So here you can see that there's obviously, this is not a pure pitch black because there is light coming out of that. People get confused with OLEDs and they think that OLEDs have better colors than IPS, and that's not true. It can be true when you are comparing a better OLED screen to a worse IPS, but that's not necessarily. OLEDs give you absolute blacks. That's it, period, full stop. Okay, and you get really good refresh rates. That's it. After that, now we get into color space. If you look at the Steam Deck 1, Steam Deck 1 had horrible color space. Compared it to the ROG Ally 1, the ROG Ally 1 had a considerably better color space, so it looked much better than the Steam Deck. And then if you compare it to the Legion Go actually had a better color space than the ROG Ally 1. Therefore, the Legion Go looked better than Ally 1, which looked better than the Steam Deck. And they were all IPS screens. Okay? Then when you got into the OLED Steam Deck, it actually looked quite similar to the Legion Go because it had the same color space. However, it had better blacks. So what am I getting at here? I use an IPS handheld. I have the pick of the world. I can buy whatever I want. I use an IPS handheld. I like dark OLED blacks. That's why I have a Switch OLED here. It looks fantastic. I love the OLED blacks. But what I'm mainly concerned with is having very good color space. High color space will give you more rich reds. Between the two of them, the MSI Claw does look better here. Not just size, the actual color space looks better. The blacks, they might look different on camera, but to me they look the same. It's probably just a filming thing. They look the same. And they're decent blacks. IPS, glossy IPS, so they're going to have pretty good blacks. In a fully black room, dark room, an OLED is just going to be so much more rich. In a brighter room, probably won't notice a big difference. Okay, now here's another one. And this is a good one too, because this also shows off if you had a bad color space, the greens here would be very muted. Kind of the grass would look almost dead. And we don't have that here. They're very similar screens. I think the Claw probably looks a tiny bit better. I mean, it's bigger, so it's just a way better screen in general. But the color space is what I'm talking about here, and they're pretty damn close. They are physically, like the color space on them they're nice. They have nice color space, nice greens, nice blues, nice reds, very, very, very nice. They're both going to be very pixel dense, so they're going to be sharp, crisp, bold, beautiful colors, bright enough. So they are physically nice screens to look at. They look very, very nice. And I do not think that in either case, I don't think at all in either case that the lack of OLED kills either of these handhelds at all. I don't think that's an issue. I think they're both lovely screens. Obviously, a major flop from ASUS was that putting a 7-inch on this thing. If they had to put this thing to an 8-inch, it would have been a real competitor on the market. A real competitor. This, like, nice chassis, easy to hold. It would have been just nice. I mean, you're paying the same price for these two handhelds here. You'll see when we get to the performance section, that kind of stuff. I mean, we're not looking at huge discrepancies or anything like that. And then you're going to decide, which one do I buy? Do I buy the one that has a 7-inch screen, or do I buy the one that has an 8-inch screen when all else is very similar? It's a tough sell. It's a tough sell, ASUS. I think you're going to see a lot of returns from I think you're going to see a lot of returns from ASUS owners, to be honest. People who already own an ASUS Ally, especially Ally X, I think you're going to see a lot of returns. They're going to look at it and they're going to say, what am I buying here, right? Like, I'm buying into the same screen and I get little, like, nibbins. It's a tough sell. Okay, so now we're going to do an audio test. I do expect them to actually have both good audio. Traditionally, the Ally really did like their audio on the Ally, so we'll see. We'll see how it sounds. They're both turned up to max. We'll just flip back and forth between them here. I don't expect a huge difference, but we'll see. Come over here. Okay, so the ROG Ally is louder, about 4 or 5 dB louder. Definitely louder. I am expecting the ASUS to win here. ASUS typically does prioritize speakers, and I've yet, probably in the past 3 years, bought any ASUS product where I was like, I don't like these speakers. They're all like, at minimum, they're like, yeah, these are decent. And then they get all the way up to like, yeah, these are really nice speakers. So let's continue though. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I actually like the MSI Claw speakers better. Wow. Yeah, that's surprising. ASUS is usually kind of the king of speakers. Like I have a G16 Zephyrus right now, and I just finished a G14, and like their speakers are just like, holy shit. When you get an ASUS speakers, you're like, man, these are really good. Even they're like ZenBooks and that, and their gaming laptops, you're like, at minimum, they're decent. And MSI is not known for their speakers. Now, they're both fantastic. These are very, very good speakers. They get very loud. They're a little tinny at the top, though, a little sharp at the top. Could be tuning. You could get in there and you could tune them a little bit. These just sound a little bit more rich. Could be a chassis thing, like maybe because they're over here, there's a little bit more room here than tucked in there. Again, could just be tuning. These might be tuned a little better. But I am going to say that the MSI Claws sound better. They're really nice speakers. These are also quite nice, but the edge is going to go here. These get a little louder, but I don't think it's necessary. These are just a little richer. Now, I do not think that's a deciding factor. I don't think anyone in their right mind should say, I'm going to buy the MSI Claw because it has slightly better speakers than the ROG Ally. No, it's not that. It's not that. Okay, the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to check ambient noise and noise under load. They're both not doing anything. They're in silent modes. They're not exactly both called silent mode, but they're in silent-y modes. They're silent. Is there any noise? Those fans aren't spinning at all. Those fans aren't spinning. Okay, so idle, there is no noise because they're not spinning, so there's nothing to measure. Slightly above ambient, but very quiet. Fan is going. I guess technically the MSI Claw is quieter. Doesn't really make a big difference there. It's like splitting hairs. Okay, we'll come in here, we'll turn this up. So this is 17 on its performance mode. If it lets me. What the fuck? The hell? They both did. So they did slightly pick up their noise here. Ever so slightly. Why is this? It's so weird. It's like buggy. What the fuck? What? Jesus. Stop, ASUS. God, it's so annoying. So 41. Yeah, the Claw is quieter. I mean, it makes sense. The Claw has a dual heat pipe. It's just more thermal mass. So I mean, it does make sense. Okay, so here we are on the ROG Ally. and check our performance modes. So we have the same settings. This is Performance XESS, and we're at low with some media mix as well. Come in here. So this is 35 watts, so max. Okay. Now I do expect it to outperform the Lunar Lake handheld at max watts. That's based on my experience, what I've seen. And it's doing a little better, yep. Not hugely. The Lunar Lake handheld, we were looking at about 55. And so we're getting a little bit, yeah, we're getting about 65. Yeah, it looks about right. Yep, so that looks pretty on par. Okay, so here we're getting, yeah, about 66, 67. About let's say 68 or so here. Okay, now we'll go into the other performance modes here. Performance. Okay, so 17 watts now. It's a pretty big drop. We're looking at 12, 13. Yeah, 12, 13 watt, FPS down. Maybe 10 only, but we're using half the watts, so very, very, very good. I mean, there are some cases where you're really going to need those extra watts, especially in CPU heavy games. But a lot of the time, you're going to be like, fine, I don't need that many watts. Let's just leave the wattages down at 17 watts or whatever. It's quieter, and you'll get more battery life. So what we're going to do now, as you can see this here, we're going to unplug this. You just can't see what I'm doing there. Get a little bit of sound there, just like the other one. Okay, come in here. So that's turbo, 25 or whatever. Now this is the most you can get off of battery. It won't let you do the full turbo on battery for some reason, which is weird, but whatever. I don't really know why. Like I'm not really too sure why you can't get the full wattages. I don't really understand it. But I mean, it's just weird. Like the turbo with it charged is 37, turbo off on battery is 25. I mean, sure. I guess you don't necessarily need to. Yeah, it's about 38 watts. Okay, come in again. Let's go in here, we'll go to performance. Okay, so now we're down. Not a big drop in performance. Almost the same, to be honest. It's basically the same, margin of error, same. It's good. So a lot of the time, honestly, a lot of the games, especially GPU heavy games, Hogwarts Legacy is GPU heavy. You can have games like Cyberpunk that are also going to hit the CPU, in which case you adding more watts will help because you're going to be sharing it between the GPU and CPU. In a game like Cyberpunk here, it's not as profound. It doesn't need as much CPU. So as a result, you can lower these performance modes down and still get good performance overall. So here, you can see we're at the 17 watt mode or whatever, and we're burning 30 watts or so. So that'll give you about, we'll give you 2.5 hours. A little, maybe touch more, but overall 2.5 hours. Again, I do have like afterburner and that open. So if you close these things down, you'll get a little bit lower wattage burn. So you probably get slightly more battery, maybe a couple watts max. And maybe a frame or two more as well. But that's pretty good. Okay. Good performance. Come down to silent. I don't expect a huge drop here, maybe a few. Yeah, so here now we're dropping down 47, 48. To about 49 watts. Our burning though here is 24. Yeah, about 24 there. Yeah, so we're burning about 24 in this mode here. So here you'll get about 3.5 hours approximately. So it's up to you. I mean, you're going to get significantly more battery life with not a huge drop in performance. I mean, the peak on battery, we were looking at around 58. So we're losing about 15 to 20% performance, yes, but you're getting much more battery life. So now the one problem here is we can't go any lower. Like there's no lower mode here. So we're maxing at 13 as like a minimum here. The Lunar Lake stuff, you can really tweak it down even further, which is can be very beneficial. Ourselves a custom mode here. We have to go into the full. I think we have to go into the full Armory crate to do that. So we'll come in here. Okay, there we go. Performance, custom. We'll make ourselves a mode here. Some fewer watts here. Whatever. Okay, so we'll come in here. Let's turn this down. So we're gonna go probably as down as low as 10. So go like that there. Short-term power limit 10. 13, I guess, is the lowest there. Interesting. So we actually can't go lower. Interesting. I thought it would let us go lower than that. So that's manual mode. So that's 10, 13. Let's see if it actually works. I'm a little confused. Okay, so now we're at 10 watts. Thereabouts, about 10 watts. And yeah, 31. Let's do a little run over here. $25. Yeah, I mean it's playable. You're definitely gonna get some drops here and there, but it's playable. Like 30 or so, 31. Yeah, so it's about 30, I would say. But we're also getting a little bit more battery, 20. Not huge, but doing okay. It's not really able to maintain 30 running around, but it's not terrible. Like if you're on a plane or something and you're like, I just don't care. I just want like the most battery I can get, and I want to play, a fairly demanding game like this. You could throw it in 10. Okay, we can go one lower. This game, it's going to start to get a little bit hard here to run, to be honest, because we're just really going to start choking on watts. Do it show again, obviously. So we'll come down. 7, I guess, is the lowest. 7 is going to be pretty low. Let's try 8. Okay, so this is 8 now. I don't expect much here. 8, yeah, let's see. So at 8 watts, we're burning 17 total system. And yeah, frame's pretty bad, 23. I mean, it's Hogwarts. I would not really consider this to be playable. 21. Yeah, it's like 21 FPS. It's not really playable here, but I mean, we're at 8 watts, so it's not much to be expected. Now, here's one thing I want to show. Here we're at 18 watts power mode. Okay, so we're at 18 watts here. Now here we're burning 24 off of the battery. Okay, and that's giving us an average FPS of, well, right now we're sitting at about 48. Okay, at 18 watts. The ROG Ally, to get to 24 system watts being burned by the system, we had to actually go down to a 13 watt power mode. 13 watt power mode. And at the 13 watt power mode, we were getting 48 FPS. So they're actually, generally speaking, quite equal, right? So the power modes, they don't line up perfectly, but if you line up the system wattages being burned, 24 watts being burned, for example, on this system here, and 24 watts being burned on this system here, in both cases, interestingly, we're actually getting about the exact same FPS, around 48 in both cases. Isn't that interesting? They're almost identical. So here's some results. We're just going to do Hogwarts Legacy for this video, just to keep it straightforward. I've done lots of other tests, but I just want to show you guys some cool stuff that I found here in terms of comparative performance here. So TGP slider here, modes, blue, claw, red, ally, pretty straightforward. Full mode here for the MSI Claw. You can do it when you're not plugged in or plugged in. On the ROG Ally, you'd notice that that kind of turbo actually changes. So turbo mode goes from 37 down to 27 when it's plugged in versus not plugged in. So I was like, yeah, whatever, we're not going to do battery for that one there. On full mode here, ROG Ally and MSI Claw, the ROG Ally has a pretty significant boost here, 68 versus 57. So it is doing a fair bit better there on the ROG Ally when it's plugged in and, you know, fully ripping there. That's good to see. Like to see that. Kind of as I expected, whereas Lunar Lake tends to plateau when you add more watts. AMD can kind of take off a little bit. Then we have 27, which is representing the turbo mode when it's not plugged in. It's actually interesting because they matched up 57 versus 57. The battery drain is massively different. The AMD you're going to see here is just way less efficient. It's constantly burning more watts, but we're looking at the same watts. When I drop down to 18 watt mode, you would actually see a very similar results. We get 58 versus 57. So the Intel stuff is not really changing here. That's margin of error changes there. And we're actually seeing a still wattage drop over here. Interestingly, you know, there's no real difference between 18 and 27. These are GPU, this is a GPU heavy game, not CPU heavy. So in this case, you're not going to benefit as much from adding more watts as you would in something like, let's say, Cyberpunk. At 17 watts over here, that's kind of the balanced preset or performance preset on the Ally. 47 versus 56. Now the Ally is starting to take off. It's beating out the MSI Claw. Went down to 13 watts, that other preset, 43 versus 48. So again, the ROG Ally is ahead here. Then going down to 8, they both kind of suck, but the MSI Claw starts to take off again. Intel Lunar Lake starts to do even better at really low watts. So if you're playing, you know, maybe not Hogwarts Legacy, which is super demanding, but a slightly older game. I mean, we're getting close to playable frame rates on MSI Claw. ROG Ally still has a fair bit to go, but it's not terrible considering it's 8 watts. But if you're playing a game that's not quite as demanding as this, like maybe a couple years older, or just a less demanding game, you'll be able to get really good frame rates on things like 8 watts. And the Intel Lunar Lake is going to get you there faster on the MSI Claw. So that's good to see. Now, this looks like it's just almost a straight victory for the ROG Ally in terms of, you know, the TGP slider modes. But what if we actually adjust for the battery drain? You'll notice here these battery results are very different. Now, I recognize it's very difficult to get systems to be identical, but this is as close as you're going to get. 2 fresh stock systems, exact same software running, nothing else changed on them, running the exact same games in the exact same places, yada, 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 yada. And once we adjust for the wattages, so here's the battery drain, right? The amount of battery being drained. This is what really matters, right? How much performance can you get versus how much battery? So when we're burning 30 watts on the battery, 30 watts, we're getting 58 on the Claw and 56 on the ROG Ally. Suddenly things are changing. Go down to 24 watts, which is here, 24, and see how they're staggered? See how they're staggered here? They don't line up because the ROG Ally needs more watts to get to those same performance. 24 watts, we're actually matched up again. 47 versus 48, again, margin of error differences there. Like, I wouldn't consider the Intel technically faster. These are like margin of error differences. And then when we drop down the watts even more, and we're sitting around, you know, 15, 16, 17, and those kind of watts, they bounced around a little bit when you're getting lower. Interestingly, here you're actually getting totally different performance. And actually, the Intel here is at 15 watts. The AMD is at 17 watts, and still the Intel is more efficient and doing better. So the picture here is at plugged in, full performance, ROG Ally wins. You can plug it in. You're not worried about battery life. It's going to beat the ROG Ally. It's going to beat the MSI Claw in Hogwarts. There are going to be games where the Intel-specific performance, that's just the way it is, and there's going to be games that perform AMD. I find Hogwarts is good on both of them. It actually does very good on both of them. It really does not do well on NVIDIA, but Hogwarts Legacy does do quite well on both of these GPUs overall, like as a rule. So on full performance mode, maxed out, yes, the ROG Ally seems to be able to do better because it's able to just pump more watts in, and it doesn't plateau as much. Whereas the Intel one, it really seems that once you hit 27 watts, there's no benefit even more. I mean, even 18 watts realistically is where you're kind of almost capping. It doesn't do much beyond that. Whereas the ROG Ally, once you really boost it, it does seem to benefit. Once you get down to these lower watts down here, meaning, you know, you unplug your device, you take it with you, and you're traveling with it, this is where Intel's going to really dominate, quite a bit, actually. It's going to really dominate. It's going to be slightly faster, if not way faster, once you start to get to those really low watts. So plugged in, the ROG Ally is doing better. On max mode, just max it out, getting better efficiency, getting more performance without consideration for efficiency. When you're actually looking at performance to watt, you know, battery drain, the Lunar Lake is at least as good, or in many cases better, when you start to get to those lower watts. Okay, so let's talk about the ROG Ally, which ended up turning into a video that's basically an ROG Ally versus MSI Claw video. I'm going to have pirated my own footage in both videos. It's just the way that it is. I'm going to review this, and I'm going to review this separately. But I found it necessary to talk about the MSI Claw in the ROG Ally review because they're the exact same price, and a lot of people are jumping on this bandwagon when it may or may not be the right thing for them. Depends on the person. So what do I think about the ROG Ally here? Let's talk about the positives first, because I have some very important negatives. Now, positives, it has an incredibly good hand feel. You can see that there. Superb hand feel because of those controllers there. It feels like a real joystick. You don't have to get like an attachment. Now, other handhelds, of course, you can get things that attach to them for, you know, $10 or whatever. But out of the box here, this thing has a really good hand feel. So it's a 10 out of 10. That's fantastic. Other things to talk about here, positives. I mean, I'm just trying to think here. The buttons all feel decent. The placement's decent. The performance is good. I mean, it's not that good compared to the previous generation. Z1 Extreme versus Z2 Extreme. It's not that significant, unfortunately. Yeah, you'll get 10 to 15% more. You don't have to watch my video. There's other people who have done it, you know, comparing the two of them and said the same thing. We're not looking at, you know, monumental, staggering performance jump between Z1 Extreme, Z2 Extreme, 780M, 890M. It's not staggering, but it's there. It's there. The biggest jump here is from ROG Ally 1. So if just say you're an ASUS person, just an ASUS person from the ROG Ally 1, the original ROG Ally, jumping to this is pretty massive because, first of all, you do get that performance bump from the Z1 Extreme to Z2 Extreme. It's there. It's not massive, but it is there. The biggest thing is actually that you're going to get more RAM, more system memory, VRAM, system memory, whatever is huge. Now, the jump between the ROG Ally X and this is very minimal, unfortunately. The ROG Ally X was a pretty big performance bump over the Legion Go 1 and the ROG Ally original, not because any performance stuff on the chip, but literally just adding more memory. So they went from 16 gigabytes to 24 gigabytes of memory, and that really did allow the ROG Ally to get more, ROG Ally X to get more performance because it got a RAM bump. So those are the positives here. I mean, yeah, that's that. Now I'm going to get a couple other things. I mean, yeah, the speakers are good. I like the speakers quite a bit. And the screen is, like the colors are good on the screen. Now let's get into the negatives. The biggest one is the screen, so I'm going to talk about that last, but I'm going to talk some other negatives. ASUS has clearly decided to cheap out on a few places here. First of all, 24 gigabytes of memory. It's not a deal breaker. You don't need 32 gigabytes of memory on this handheld here, but everybody else is doing it. This is literally an MSI Claw, an ROG Ally X refresh, where all they did is just swap the chip over, which is like almost like an overclock, and then added handles, right? You're still getting 24 gigabytes of memory. That's the right side? Yeah, that's the right side. 24 gigabytes of memory. That's unacceptable. Like, it's just cheap. Like, what do you... 32 on this, 32 on the Legion Go. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing, ASUS? Like, you're just being cheap. Like, what is it? A couple bucks for that extra little bit of memory there? Like, just stop. Just stop. You know, they're cheaping there. They put on one USB 4 port instead of two. Yeah, you get two USB ports in general, but you're only getting one of them as USB 4. Like, and then these guys have 2 Thunderbolt, like registered Thunderbolt 4 ports because it's Intel. And then the AMD ones are going to have 2 USB 4 ports. The Legion Go has 2 USB 4 ports. Like, come on, Asus. Like, why are you being cheap? Like, you're cutting the memory down because you're like, they probably won't notice it in performance. And sure, maybe, but people also may use this for other things. And like, you're just being a cheap ass, just cutting the RAM down, cutting out that extra USB port. Like fuck off, Asus. Honestly, it's so annoying. Like, they're just being cheap. Yeah, and then like, there's nothing else here that's like bad other than those 2 things there. But then the bad is that 7-inch screen. I'm sorry. I've been like talking to people on Discord, Reddit, and the vast majority of people are like, what in the fuck is Asus talking about and thinking putting a 7-inch screen back on this? Like, are you crazy? There are the Asus apologists. Like, you can be an Asus, you can like the brand and like the products. I'm not against that's fine. You can do that, but don't be an apologist for a mega corporation who doesn't give a shit about you. I hate that. It's so ridiculous. They are cheapening out. This is an ROG Ally X with 2 little handhelds on it and a overclock chip, because the chip is newer, but it's just basically an overclock. It's not that much faster to go to the Z2 Extreme. So what you're getting here is a refreshed ROG Ally X. And it's $1,000 American dollars. $1,000 American dollars. That's crazy. It's so crazy. It's the same screen size, like the same chassis. You get a little hand thing. That the Xbox is total bullshit. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. Yeah, you can press a button and it brings up some Xbox crap. Like, my Steam thing popped up too. Like, what does it mean? Like, there's your ROG thing. That's cool. That's good. I like that. All right, and there's your Xbox. It brings up Game Pass, and now it's an Xbox. So stupid. I have Game Pass on this too, and on my other thing, on my other handheld, my other 2 handhelds, and my laptop, and my desktop, and I just press a button too, and it brings up Xbox Game Pass. I mean, I like Xbox Game Pass, so it's not an Xbox at all. It means nothing. So it's shitty branding. It actually drags Microsoft down as well, which is ridiculous. So it's not an Xbox. It's just a Windows handheld that has an Xbox Game Pass button on it. That's it. Asus is like, what if I know that like Lenovo is coming out with the Legion 2, and it's going to be a full revamp, and MSI is coming out with new handhelds, one with AMD and one with Intel. What if we take the ROG Ally, add little handles on it, and just like slip that little chip in and change nothing else, and we can sell it as a brand new handheld for $1,000. And they're just like, money. Every company loves money, but these guys just go about it in the sleaziest way. So that's the ROG Ally Xbox edition. Don't buy it. Don't buy it. Yeah, don't buy it. Don't buy it. I'm sorry, don't buy it. So that's the review. I'm sure that there's going to be so much hate on this video from Asus fans, and I don't really care. I am here to promote education of products. I will give you my opinion. My opinion is don't fucking buy it. But there's also objective things here, and the objective things are there are a lot of inferior things on this, and the fact that it's essentially just an ROG Ally X refresh being sold $1,000 is absurd to me. So, yep, that's the video.